Hello, and welcome to a slightly tardy episode of Mr. Bench's Book Reviews. I was a little ill this week, which is why this is a day late, but thank you for your patience. What's in the box today? Oh. It is called On Angel Wings, and it's written by Michael Morpurgo and illustrated, as you may recognise straight away, by Quentin Blake, who has also illustrated many Roald Dahl books, among others. I have read this before, and it's fairly long, so it's unlikely I will get through the whole book, but it's not in chapters, but I'll just stop at some point around the 12-minute mark. So we're on Michael Morpurgo. On Angel Wings, and there's a picture of an angel and someone on their back. It's not called On Angel Back because that would sound stupid, I suppose. This is about, even as a little dedication for all the children who read this on Christmas night. So feel free to bookmark this and rewatch it on Christmas night if you want to. Okay, this is a bit like, it's not quite like a Mr. Man book, but some pages have a picture on one side and text on the other side, and a slightly calligraphic first letter. As I say, you got Quentin Blake, you can ask them to do some illustrations. But I'll just get into the text. Here we go. The truth is that once we weren't children anymore. We never did believe Grandpa's story. Not really. So that's cool, without saying, I am a child with a grandpa. He just mentions grandpa, and you know that it's a child talking. Or at least someone who once had a grandpa. Not really, much as you might have wanted to. It was just too improbable, too fantastical. Now that is a sentence which is very typical of Morpurgo. It was just too improbable, too fantastical. You may come up with that construction a few more times. I've read something else of his about the dog from The Wizard of Oz, and he uses this comma thing quite often. We'll see if it shows up again. Keep your eyes open. We still love listening to it though. Christmas nights would never have been the same without it. We'd be out there on the hillside. Now that's a hint as to what kind of community or family this narrator belongs to, and there's a picture which shows someone with a crook, and that's a bearded bloke, so I guess that's Grandpa, and this could even be narrator here, listening in rapt awe. Keeping watch over the sheep by night, yes, so shepherds. And anyone familiar with the Christmas story will know that shepherds do appear in at least one version of it. That's where he'd been on the first Christmas night all those years before, the night it happened. Okay, so we're in the first century of the Common Era, I suppose. There's a granddad who was, if we assume that Christmas was around 4 AD. So late first century. Well, that's what he told us. We'd be wrapped in our cloaks and huddled around the fire, the sheep shifting around us in the darkness, and we'd be ready and waiting for the story to begin. That's just how it was last night. Grandpa poked his shepherd's crook into the fire, emphasising shepherd's crook. I don't know who else uses crooks. You kind of already know they're shepherds, but sometimes you give these additional clues for the slightly slower reader. Nothing wrong with that. And sent a shower of sparks flying up into the night sky. And then there's a paragraph break, and then it starts in quotation marks. Now it's the grandpa talking. When I was very little, he began, I remember I used to think all the stars were made out of sparks like those. Sparks that went on forever, that never went out. Then one night, I'd have been 9 or maybe 10 years old, something quite wonderful happened. I always think that's a bit weird. It could be a little joke about people not knowing the exact year Jesus was born, even in tradition. But you'd think you'd kind of have your story down if you tell it every year. Anyway, something quite wonderful happened. Father, now I think this is grandfather referring to his father, So the grandfather's little, so the father's and the great-grandfather of the narrator. And Uncle Zach. This is from the grandpa's point of view, so that's some sort of... were there, and my older brothers, Reuben and Jacob. Reuben and Jacob are two very typical Hebrew Bible names, like Old Testament names. I believe Reuben is the oldest... oh, I'm going to get this muddled. The oldest brother, possibly the oldest son of the original Jacob. Reuben and Jacob, they're very typical names anyway, they come up. I mean, you've probably gathered that they're in first century Palestine anyway. Or here, turn of the century. But yeah, just emphasising. Zach, probably short for Zachariah, or something similar. We were all tired and irritable. It had been a long, hard day. We'd lost a couple of lambs the night before, to a wolf maybe, or a jackal. I don't know about the fauna. I don't know if you get wolves and jackals around there, but you probably do. So no one was singing around the fire that night. No one was even talking. I remember I was stabbing at the fire with my crook, making stars of the sparks, as I loved to do. Then it happened. Instead of flying up high to join the stars, they seemed to be playing with one another. These are the sparks. Then arranging themselves into a figure, a human figure, that's this comma and then like an insertion again, that was bathed in sudden glorious light, hovering over us, wings outstretched. It was an angel, and there's a picture of the angel that has emerged from these sparks. And it's interesting, now bearded bloke is obviously not this bearded bloke, but it's a nice parallel, I guess. You have, although no, you only had his father, you didn't have his grandfather. But now the grandfather from the first scene is now the child. It's nice. It's like passing down the generations. I threw myself into father's arms. It might be nice if you had a grandfather, really, or a grandpa, and buried my face in his shoulder. When I dared look up again, Uncle Zach and Reuben and Jacob were lying face down on the ground. Jacob sobbing like a baby. I believe Jacob is not a baby. I think he's one of his older brothers, yeah. So that's why like a baby. The sheep had scattered everywhere, bleating piteously. I'm sorry to drop in on you unexpectedly like this, said the angel. And at the sound of his voice, the sheep fell silent around us. It must have been an awful shock. But believe me, you've got nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. So I would have put a comment. But believe me, you've got nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. That's a friendly angel. It's very difficult for an angel not to come in unexpectedly, because even sending the announcement of going to appear would be rather unexpected. No one really expects contact from an angel in any form. Although they may have done more so back in those days when there was a bit more of a tradition of angelology. There was a comforting warmth to his voice, so it's a he angel. I think a lot of them are actually. Certainly Michael, Gabriel, I think those are blokes' names. Satan, generally considered male. And a gentleness about him that was instantly reassuring. I guess this isn't Satan then. Satan wouldn't apologise. He was very British. I don't know if angels conform to any national stereotypes, actually. Morpurgo is presumably British, so he probably writes angels with slightly British characteristics, even if they're in Palestine. Anyway, Uncle Zach and Reuben and Jacob were up on their knees by now, their faces filled not with fear, but with awe and wonder. Up on their knees, because that's the contrast to lying down. You could go down on your knees, but they've been fairly prostrate before this. The sheep were drifting back towards us, gazing up at the angel adoringly, as if he were their shepherd. I guess if you're a shepherd, or a child of shepherds, you can distinguish between adoring gazes of sheep and just general sheep face, resting sheep face, I believe it's called. It was Uncle Zach who dared to speak first. to the angel. First of the humans. Are you really an angel? He breathed. I am, said the angel. Did the angel say he was an angel? I don't think he did. So that's well identified. Well done, Uncle Zach. Got it right first guess. And my name is Gabriel. Ah, well, that's one of the famous ones. I don't know if Gabriel is like... Apparently angel, Angel, in one of these old languages, means messenger of God, etymologically. El is like an old name for the god. And I guess Ang, or possibly Ange, is some sort of messenger. And then that's why a lot of angels' names end in L as well, such as Gabriel and Michael, and even Emmanuel means something like God with us, and that has L in it as well. This L means God. I didn't know that until fairly recently. But I do now, and now you do too. Are you really real? Father asked, clutching me as tightly as I was clutching him. Or are you a dream? I don't know if they both say really when he hasn't made any of these claims. He didn't say he was an angel, and he didn't say he was real, so, but okay, mate, that's just the way they talk. Or are you a dream? No dream, the angel Gabriel replied. The angel Gabriel, okay. They've capitalised angel there, so it's his first name, like the guy out of Buffy. What I am is real, and what I've come to tell you is true. He's messenger. Angels tend to be messengers. I bring you news of great joy, for tonight, only a few miles away from here in Bethlehem, a child has been born. A Saviour who is Christ the Lord. He will bring peace and goodwill to the whole world. If you did want to read this and like cut the explicitly Christian bits, you could just say a child has been born and then just skip to the next bit. Like if you didn't want to get into the whole theology of Christs and Saviours, you could just say a child has been born, he will bring peace and goodwill to the whole world. That's fairly easy. Even as I speak, this child, king, and then it says this son of God and son of man. So again, son of man, if you don't want to go down that rabbit hole, confuse your listeners, you could just say this child king is lying wrapped in swaddling clothes and cradled in a manger. Well, that's traditional, even the way they're referred to as swaddling clothes. I can see from your faces that you don't quite believe me, do you? Kings are born in palaces, said father. As in them days. I guess nowadays kings are probably born in hospitals, though. Most people with access to a decent health service. Not this king, replied the angel. Well, I know you have birthing houses, and some people go for a home birth. But, anyway, not this king, replied the angel. But seeing is believing, isn't it? Nice, can be. How would you like to go there? Would you like to see him for yourselves? We'll go, of course we will, said Uncle Zach, getting to his feet. But you'll have to tell us where to find him. There are dozens of stables in Bethlehem. How are we to know which one he's in? It's simple, the angel Gabriel said. When I've gone, you'll see a star in the eastern sky. Just follow it. And it'll stop right over the stable. Now he's conflating a couple of the traditions here. I believe normally in most nativity plays, it's the wise men who follow the star. And here, Morpurgo, I mean, he's obviously... I mean, even the nativity play is obviously a bit free with the original gospel texts. Picks and chooses and introduces donkeys. So I'm not criticising, I'm just pointing out it's interesting when the shepherds follow the star. Just follow it and I'll stop right over the stable. That's where you'll find the baby. What are you waiting for? Do you want to go or don't you? Why us? Asked Uncle Zach. Why have you chosen us? There's a picture, that's probably Uncle Zach. Because, replied the angel Gabriel, because one day he too will be a shepherd as you are, a shepherd not of sheep, but of all mankind. So a man herd, that would be. That's interesting. His song is called The Lamb and his song is called The Shepherd, so it's like both, fulfills both roles there. It's interesting. I don't like it, Reuben whispered to Uncle Zach. How do we know it's true? It could be some sort of a trick to get us to leave our sheep. I don't know if angels are particularly interested in cheating people out of their sheep. Oh dear, sighed the angel Gabriel. I can see you're going to need some convincing. As he spoke, the sky above was suddenly filled with angels, hundreds of them, and the whole earth rang with their singing. Glory to God on high, and on earth, peace, goodwill towards men. Again, if you did want to take the God out of it, you could just say, just get rid of that if you didn't want it. But you can put it in if you like it. Depends what you're trying to do with the book, really. And there's a picture of lots of angels, all different colours now. Even as they sang, they hovered above us, their wings beating the air so there was a great rushing wind all about us that fanned the embers of the fire into sudden roaring flames. Ah, these must be the roaring flames, I hope the angels don't singe their wings. Reuben and Jacob and Uncle Zach were flat on their faces again. Typical. But I watched all the time. I didn't want to miss a thing. I wasn't frightened at all. I was simply spellbound. You have to say, the grandpa telling the story, he's obviously going to say he was the brave one. It could be that he was sobbing like a baby, just like the others. But we don't know. We don't have Reuben and Jacob and Uncle Zach's testimony, unfortunately. I think I'll stop there. It's quite long, as I say, but it's quite nice. I quite like the way he kind of takes a story familiar to many people, which is the Christmas story, focuses, in this case, on one of the shepherd children. And clearly there's going to be some sort of adventure where he gets on the angel's back and takes his crook with him. I assume that's what's happening there. So he's going to fly somewhere. It may be like the snowman. I mean, I have read it, so I know, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So yeah, if you would like me to read on from that point, do let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll get to another book. And as I say, Morpurgo is a nice start. He does a lot of these commas and inserting little clauses. I didn't get to one that was exactly like the kind I wanted. I could pick one out for you, because as I say, it does have something very distinctive. I can probably find it, just a moment. Where is it? Yeah, I mean, like here it says, his great wings beating strongly, slowly. Strongly, comma, slowly, full stop, rather than strongly and slowly, but strongly, slowly. And it's just kind of the rhythm of the writing. It is very distinctive of Morpurgo, which is kind of cool to be able to recognise the author's hand in the work. Blake does perfectly good illustrations. I mean, you know what you get with Blake. And I mean, it's quite nicely done, the way you get a bit of colour behind the words. It makes them slightly hard to read if you have the lights off in places, because a white background is obviously easiest for reading. I mean, the Mr. Man style is probably best. Just simple. Picture one side, text the other side. I think that's a tried and tested method. But other than that, wonderful. Do check it out. And as I say, there's enough, if you are reading it to a child who you don't want to indoctrinate, you can quite easily leave out things about saviours and Christs and sons of mans, which obviously could raise questions that you might think you are either incapable of answering adequately, or that you just don't want to get involved with and distract from the nice story. Okay then, thanks, and I will see you next time. Bye!